If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, live and direct, right here on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com, quick like a bunny. You can listen to us live right now. You got a belly up to the bar? We've kept your seat, and it is great to see you back. Tashay is our bartendress tonight. She pours with the best of them. And the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right. The reason I mention the lava lamp, to those of you who are not interested in just listening, if you want to watch the show, it is streaming live right this very, very second. And you can go to the SHR Media Facebook page, running live right now. You can go to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Oh my God, we got it back. Facebook hugs us once again after it kicked us off for 60 days. Bad SHR. You know what? We don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversation. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all here at the saloon. Nothing, zip, zero, the null set. Nothing is sacred. The speech is free, but the booze is not. All that we ask is that you flush the toilet, jiggle the handle, and don't forget to tip your waitress or your waiter tonight. I'm really happy to have a repeat offender back in the saloon. He'll be on in about 5 minutes or so, a couple of minutes. And that is Alan Thomas, formerly of Paranormal Central. And now he is struck out on his own to the Squatch zone. And Alan has his very own show. We're going to be talking to him in just a few minutes. Some bad news and some good news. The good news is that, in California, this is good news for California. It's been raining like crazy, which is absolutely wonderful. Now, my wife has a house here in Sacramento, which is why I'm saying, by the way, the studio right here, right now. I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California because literally the locus of evil in at least the United Snakes of America, possibly the world, possibly the planet, is about 2 miles that way. I'm pointing west, and that's the Bill Mill, the Sacramento capital, one of the greatest offenders of common sense and sanity extant, perhaps even in the history of time. However, having said that, California has been through droughts. It's been up, it's been down, and up until about a month or so ago, everyone was going, oh, woe is me, we're going to have another drought. And then we got a crap load of rain delivered on us, and we got a crap load of snow in the Sierra, and like I said, my wife lives down here, and I have a cabin up at about the 4,000-foot level in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And I've got snow up there. Well, we had a blast of wind, rain, and snow about 3 weeks ago or so. Three to 2 weeks ago. This week, we're getting a repeat performance, and people are hopefully speculating that California may not have to go through a drought. Of course, that's not addressing the issue with Southern California because, as you all well know, the water that I get up in the Sierra Nevada mountains, because it's, after all, California, all this water gets swept down into very few, if any, reservoirs because California has no water management plans whatsoever. To build a dam or a reservoir is verboten, according to the environmental Gestapo that happened to run the state of California. So water management, fuck it. What's that? And yet we still have water managers in the state of California who get paid high 5 to 6 figures to flush as much water as we possibly can right out to the ocean or to Southern California. And again, that's my point, because all the water that's coming up here, yeah, that's all well and good, but we're going to ship a great percentile of that down to Southern California because you know those illegal aliens, hey, they have a right to drink too. And I'm not just talking tequila. Stop that racist crap right now. We will not tolerate that. Drinking tequila by Mexicans a lot on the show, okay? Just saying. Let's bump into chat here for a moment. By the way, here's how things are going to go. When Alan Thomas calls in, we've had him on before. Alan Thomas, if you may not know, is a Sasquatch investigator, a Sasquatch hunter, well-versed in the paranormal, well-versed in the unexplained, and has a lot of credibility to him. I went through his CV last year. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I bet you this is who is calling right now. If I'm not mistaken, this very well might be Alan Thomas. And is it, sir? Is it you?
This is he. Hey, how do I sound?
You sound pretty good. All I have to do is just crank you up a little bit. Are you on a strange new telephone?
No, I'm using my cell phone, so I wasn't sure, if it was going to be good signal.
Ah, okay. All right, I get it. Maybe you do the kind of thing that I do when I call into somebody else's show. Now let me ask you up front, because I'm going to be the sterling gentleman. Can you be here for the bulk of the hour?
Yeah, I sure can.
Okay, great. It's always good and always fair to ask. Now, having said that, I'm going to ask you a question. Now, when I call in on a show, and somebody especially, I don't know, they may want me on the air for an hour or so, I'm just curious if you do the same thing that I like to do. I have a phone, it's a wireless, and when I'm talking, I can't sit down. I have to get up, and I have to walk around. And I have to pace a little bit. Sometimes I go out in the backyard. Sometimes I go in the front. Sometimes I walk around a little bit. But I find it very difficult if I'm on somebody else's show listening and fielding questions and whatnot. I can't keep my ass in the chair. Are you kind of like that, Alan Thomas?
Like you nailed it. That would be me. Only this time, what's really funny about that is I was thinking about that for the last hour. And I thought, no, I'm going to plant my butt in the seat, and I'm going to sit down for the whole hour, or however long that we go.
Okay.
And so I'm going to try really hard to stay in this chair.
I can't do it. I absolutely can't do it. It's like I used to teach all sorts of classes for law enforcement. I used to teach EVOC, which is the Emergency Vehicle Operations course. I used to teach field officer training, firearms, all sorts of stuff. And when I would give the classroom portion of these things, I could not stand behind a podium. I could not stand behind a lectern. And I couldn't stop my arms, my hands from waving around and whatnot. So that was one way to keep people awake and whatnot. Well, I was just going to introduce you. I was in the process of introducing you. Oh, hey, and by the way, welcome to the people in chat. Welcome to Mary Brockman. Your chair is unoccupied, madame. Welcome to Mike, and welcome to Whiskey Dale. And already already, Alan, there are questions for you in chat. And hang on, folks, we will get to them. But I just wanted to say, Alan, we had you on before. We had you on. You went places that I didn't see you going at all. And we learned a ton about you. So tonight, I'm not going to try to focus so much on your background and whatnot, because you already told us a lot about you personally, where you came from, how you were raised, etc. I kind of want to see if tonight we can start to get into the real meat of things and talk about a lot of the stuff with which you are well-versed, basically Sasquatches, the paranormal, things that are going on in the Fresno area, which is kind of near where you operate. And and the other thing I want, before we even start, because I watched it last night, and I'm going to ask you some questions about this, but first, Alan Thomas, can you tell us where can you be viewed, where can you be seen, and tell us about your show, please.
Right now, really all I have is the YouTube channel, and it's real simple. It's just Squatch Zone. That's it. Just Squatch Zone. And from that, I have all the links, if they, to get a hold of me and everything, all on the YouTube channel. So real easy to find. You find the YouTube channel, you found everything about me, pretty much.
Okay. I happen to watch you broadcast when you can, because you're a regular person, you have a real life, and you have bills to pay and things like that. So you are on whenever you can find the time to be on. And folks, if you here's the deal, gonna kick it over to you again, Alan. You got to subscribe to Alan Thomas's YouTube channel. Subscribe to his channel, and then you can be notified about his broadcasts. You can get into his chat room, and Alan has a ton of people in chat. He has a ton of followers. He has a ton of subscribers, and I bet he could use more. However, recently, I saw you had a recent video, a really good video, and I'm going to pick your brain about your video camera in a little bit. You had a really good video about something that you discovered at a levee in the area. So maybe you can tell us what was happening there, and why were you a little surprised that a levee had a gate to it? What did that mean?
Well, I grew up over here, and I was a country boy, raised most of the time in the mountains. But when my dad or family, we would sometimes live in the city, but not really. I guess not in the city, but outside the city, near it, in the country. And that's one of the areas where I spent a lot of time as a kid. So, and we shot a TV show there. We did chasing UFOs there. There was a triangle crash in 2010.
Oh, wait! Stop right there. You said there was a what crash in 2010?
A triangle.
Okay, stop right there. Let everybody know what a triangle is and why that might be very significant.
Well, you live in, and I live in. I mean, even though you live a ways away from me, you live at the top end of the Nevada Triangle.
Okay.
And I live at the bottom part of the Nevada Triangle, and there's these triangles that fly up and down the valley, and they use, most of the time they're over the Sierras or close to the Sierras, like the mountain, the foothills, I guess.
Okay.
Well, in this one area, and the reason I always liked it and went there, even as a kid, was there was these stories of wolf men and UFOs and, ghosts, and just, the place is a trip, you know what I mean? It has like a really long history. To me, it's a mystery, or it was a mystery, why they built the dam, because that, it's like a flood zone, but only when I was a kid, there was nothing out there. So who's worried about being flooded? You know what I mean? It's just a creek.
Okay.
So why would they build this spend all this money out there in the middle of nowhere, right? Until a few years ago, then I found out that there was something they may be protecting out there from being flooded. It was some kind of an ancient site. And me and Jeffrey, stumbled onto it, and then we trespassed, a few times out there. Only the place has a long history. It still, to this day, has UFO sightings. In fact, I put up a little video this morning that I took while I was out there, and I edited it. And it was just there was a bunch of people out there. They can't drive. Used to be able to drive all the way down in there, a couple of miles in there. Now they put the gate, and it says no trespassing, but there's joggers and skateboarders and all kinds of people,
Okay.
It's like a park, and we've been using it forever, so I'm not sure they can really legally gate it and keep people out of there. You know what I mean? Like, after a certain amount of time of allowing people a certain access at a certain place, I think they're bound, by law to keep that open for people to still use. You know what I mean? I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So then while I'm out there, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of it and, what I'm telling you right now. And these 3 kids show up, and they start telling me UFO stories. 2 of them from right there at that spot, and then one that was 3 miles away from there, close to where they live at. And they were triangles and lights. And I have another friend that I go out there regularly with, and there's black helicopters. We found things out there. I had a friend tell me one time he found a little room and opened up the door, and it led to a tunnel that led him all the way across town. I don't know if he had a flashlight or what, but he went in the tunnel, and then he came out like 7 miles down the way from. And actually, where he came out, where the place he came out was a Japanese internment camp a long, long, long time ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I mean, like, this is an intriguing place, and I like going there, and I'm going to try to peel back the layers of the onion, and see if I can't find more interesting things, out there, and learn, what is it that makes that place a black helicopter, triangle, Bigfoot, Wolfman, ghost magnet,
I have to ask you, because I did happen to see the video. It's about 5 or 6 minutes long, and it's shot very well, and edited nicely, I might say. Did those kids know who you were? Because they just walked right up to you and started talking. You and both of them, and the others. You immediately had a rapport with these guys, and they just poured out their hearts to you in terms of what it is that they saw. Did you know that? Or excuse me, did they know that you had a show, or had they seen you before?
No, they hadn't. They didn't. But when they walked up, one of them crashed right in front of me on his skateboard. I mean, he took a really good crash, and his elbow went to meatloaf, or what do you call it? Raw meat looked like.
Oh.
And I was like, man, that hurt. And he was like, yeah. He goes, but I'll be all right. And he was sitting there, and all of them are, surrounding him. And I go, I have a little, backpack here. I got some Band-Aids and stuff like, if you need it, I can fix you up real quick. He's like, oh man, that would be great, And so then I let his friends fix him up. I just gave him the stuff, and they fixed him up. And then they were like, what do you do? While they're fixing him up, they're asking me, what am I doing? And I told them, just, taping a little thing that I might put on YouTube. I didn't really go into anything. And they were all interested in it. And then they started telling me about UFOs and that they were seeing out there. And I told them, hey, man, come over here and tell me about it. And if you're not afraid of cameras. And they were a little bit shy, and then they were kids, they were playing around and, they're playing grab ass and all kinds of stuff, that, you know how kids are.
Yeah.
And, I raised 6 kids, so I immediately always have this thing with kids that, and usually anybody really, I can be friends with anybody pretty quick. I actually met 4 or 5 people out there yesterday, and those are the only ones that had stories, though. So they're the only ones that went on tape. But yeah, it's a really fun place.
It was a great story, and I really enjoyed it. But I just found it interesting how these people gravitated to you, and boom, they started pouring out their stories of things that customarily people don't talk a lot about. Unexplained sightings, UFOs. People are pretty hesitant to talk about stuff like that. Except
now you want to hear something really funny or interesting, or
always. I always want to hear something like that.
Okay, so like I got 5 minutes, okay, and I have to call you. And I step outside, and I'm thinking I'm going to get a little fresh air. I was watching Xena Warrior, and I thought, man, I got to stretch my legs a little bit and get a little fresh air before I sit down for an hour. And when I step out, my sister and my niece come walking up. And my niece is older, not old, but she has kids and stuff like that. And she's like, hey, I watch your show all the time, because I don't tell my family, what I do. Mm-hmm. So they have to find out just like everyone else, pretty much. And she says, man, I watched this one show where you talked about Reedley, and that's where she lives, over by Reedley.
Okay.
Her husband is a power plant manager. And she said that they were going to pick up some other kids, and they were going over the river, and they had listened to the show about the Bigfoots running around in Reedley, right, in the city of Reedley. I think we talked about this last time. Well, as they're crossing the bridge, they notice 3 red lights, and it looks like towers, like lights for airplanes on a tower. And they're not blinking, they're just sitting there. And she's like, I don't recall those red lights being there, and then her daughter says, oh, it's that tower, and then she goes on about how the lights are for the airplanes and tells her all about it, and she's like, yeah. And all of a sudden, one of them takes off and flies off, and leaves 2 of them. And, they tripped out, and then another one flies off, and right about the time the first one disappeared, the second one took off. And as it was about to disappear, the third one took off, all flying in the same direction. And she said they had watched him about 15 minutes before they even took off. And this is right before I even called. I got a story like right, fresh, hot off the press, or the porch, I guess you would say. Hot off the porch. Right before I called.
That's
perfect. It's an interesting life.
Timing is everything. But I found that because of who you are, you're a very personable and likable guy, and people just like to talk to you. Now, I want to go back a little bit last week. You and I had lunch at a place in Clovis called Cool Hand Luke's, and we sat down for a lunch, and we had about a 2.5-hour lunch, for gosh sakes. And during that time, we talked about radio, we talked about your show, we talked about your background, we talked about what you were going to do in the future. One of the things that I told you is that I myself had an experience recently. And what I'd like to do is tell everybody what happened to me about 2.5 weeks ago.
Sweet, okay.
And that was this. My wife and I had gone to Fort Bragg. And as we were coming back, we were on Highway 20. In California, Highway 20 is really windy. It's kind of torturous. once you get past 101 and we're going west to east, because we're aiming for I-5. Eventually, we're going to get back on I-5 and go back to Sacramento. In the process of being on Highway 20, we encounter this place called Clear Lake. Clear Lake is a rather large body of water, and there have been, unfortunately, a lot of fires around there. Sonoma County had burned up, Mendocino County, and Clear Lake is known for its fishing. So it's a community that has a lot of cabins there, a lot of homes that are on the lake, and it has docks right next to Highway 20 that stick out into Clear Lake, so people can fish off the docks, so people that own them can get and clamber down into their boats and go zipping around the lake, fishing and whatnot. So in various communities, there are a bunch of these docks that come almost up to Highway 20. Well, I'm driving. My wife is in the passenger seat, and this is about a week and a half ago. And we had gone to Fort Bragg. We were driving back. My job is to drive. As we had just passed this little winky town called Lucerne on Highway 20, and Clear Lake is right next to us. And there are more of these little docks, and there are homes that and shacks and whatnot that are right on the shore adjacent to the docks. My job is to drive. But for whatever reason, I looked over to the right on Highway 20, and I saw something, and I jammed on the brakes, made an immediate U-turn on Highway 20, and came back. And I don't remember what I said initially, but my wife told me later, she says, "You just said you saw a chimp climbing out of the water." Well, I went back, couldn't find anything. We looked for a long time to try to see if there was anything there. And now she's a devotee of the paranormal and Sasquatch as well, so she knows a lot about this stuff that I don't know. So we began discussing the situation, and then I talked to you about the situation. And you and I had a little chat about it, and I'm going to tell people what I saw, and then I would like your input about what you think it may possibly have been, even though we talked about it, but this is brand new for the people here that are listening on the radio. As I'm driving by, I see what looks like something obviously human to me. It's small, like maybe an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, and it's climbing out of the water, hand over hand, on a ladder that extends from the dock into the water itself. The impression that I get, it was sort of orangish brown. I get no impression whatsoever that it was wearing a wetsuit because, and I see it from the back. I should tell you, I see it from the back. But I noticed that there's some vertical texturing on this thing. Like there's no delineation between, say, a wetsuit and the neck and the head, as though this person or thing is wearing a wetsuit and the arms are exposed. I don't see any of that. It's all a uniform color. It's all a uniform texture. And the way the texturing is running, it's like almost as if I would describe something with fur climbing out of the water, about the size of an 8 to 10-year-old. And my wife and I, we discussed that at great length. And we thought, and we went to the internet, of course. And we thought, okay, could it be some kind of a weird full suit, a bodysuit of someone that had a strange colored wetsuit? But if you're going to do that, generally you're going to have tanks on. And the other thing is that you might have your hands exposed. You might have your head exposed, your neck exposed. Sometimes you have, depending on if you're wearing a 3/4 piece neoprene suit, you have your arms exposed, your legs exposed. None of that. It was all a uniform color and apparently a texture. And she pointed out to me, she said, you know, the first thing you said is it looked like a chimp. You said the word chimp. And then it finally dawned on me, okay, I think I said chimp because to me it appeared as though it may have had some kind of elongated type arms. But there was nothing, it wasn't like skin of, say, a white person, a black person. It was all uniform, and it gave off a general impression to me of fur. And as you would be climbing vertically out of the water would tend to flow from the top down, and that might create rivulets in the fur. So it all went together to me, and we looked at each other about 10 minutes later after I described the thing to her, and she said, "Oh, my God, did you just see a young Sasquatch?" And my first response was, "No, that can't be, because this is the middle of the day. It's not at night. It's not early in the morning. It's not late in the afternoon. This is darn near in the middle of the day." So we were absolutely confounded. But I am convinced I didn't see a little kid, and I didn't see a person in a wetsuit. And we were right on Clear Lake. So tell you what, I've gone past the break. Tell you what, folks, we're going to come back right after the break, and I want Alan Thomas to weigh in on what it is that he think may have occurred or what I may have seen. And we'll be back in about 3 minutes because Alan had some very interesting things to say during the lunch, and I'd like to have him weigh in once again. So, folks, don't go away. We're talking to Alan Thomas, Sasquatch investigator, hunter, paranormal, and a guy well-versed in the unexplained. Don't go away.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about?
The last
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Hey, good point. Exactly right. Oh, God.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're listening to the bloviating Zeppelin in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show right here on the SHR Media Network on shrmedia.com. We got a lot of people in chat. Appreciate that. Tonight, for the first hour, we are speaking to Alan Thomas, a paranormal investigator whose expertise lies mostly in the area of Sasquatch, squatching, an investigator, a hunter, and I just regaled everybody with a tale about what I had seen while driving home from Clear Lake. To me, it appeared to be, and I'm going to throw it out there, a young Sasquatch in the middle of the day. And so, Alan Thomas, I don't know, what the heck do you think I saw?
I'm leaning towards that you saw a young Sasquatch, and I'm never been to Clear Lake, but only I am way familiar with it for at least 10 years. I have even friends on Facebook that some live near there, and then some live, a little ways like the Bay Area and stuff like that, but that's their Bigfoot zone, where they go. And the young ones, usually they're the ones that take risks in the daytime. And the reason I say that I think it was a Sasquatch is because when you turned around, there was nobody there, right? There was nothing.
Right.
And if it was a human, they would still be there normally. There would be not gone, or you'd see which way they went, and you would be able to see them. You know what I mean? When it's one of the forest ninjas, you see him, now you see him, now you don't thing.
Right.
And he knew he was seen, and he knew when whatever, it turned around. When you turn around, it probably swam away.
Okay, now
he jumped right back in the water and swam out.
You mentioned a couple of things to me that I hadn't thought about that, but one of the things that I remember you saying is that, okay, I have heard of sightings around Clear Lake, and then you mentioned, and maybe you could explain this a little bit, you mentioned a couple of things that hadn't come to my mind, like maybe there's more food around in the area, and the other thing you mentioned was territoriality, that too many squatches in a particular area tends to make them expand. So perhaps you could expand on those possibilities.
Well, that area, from what I know, what I've been told, there's a museum in Felton, a Bigfoot museum, and every year we go over there, and every year I get to meet all the people that live over there, and a lot of them, from the Bay, that's their Squatch zone, is the Clear Lake. So it's like a habituation area, right? Like, so they go over there because there's families of them, and they are territorial. As once they, just like bears, just like any animal, these things move too. They don't stay like in one place. They move as the food moves. Like if the deer migrates, and they follow the deer. If the food, the vegetables, whatever it is that they're eating, different times of the year will be different things they eat, so they move following that. Okay. And when as they use their range, it could be a really big range, like 50, 100 miles. I don't know, exactly, but I do know that a lot of people that report them, if you keep track of reports like I do, certain times of the year is when they have the reports, and then the rest of the time of the year there's no reports. So they move a lot, and then if that's the case, then they have to be like mountain lions and bears and stuff like that. They don't like other of their kind in their range. So they'll run them off, run off the other ones. And just like down here, we have a habituation area where we got the DNA, and they sound like chimps. Okay, when we're hearing them, when they're in the area, around Memorial Day is when they're in the area. So we always make sure we're in there Memorial Day. And they sound like chimps, right? That's what they sound like. They talk and chatter like chimps. And they also make every animal sound known, and they also talk. Like they can say your name and stuff like that if they hear your name. But only there was some that were down there, and they were making an owl call for about 2 hours, and we recorded the owl call. And then after 2 hours, they got bored with the owl call, and then they went back to and we thought they were weird owls. We never heard that call. All of a sudden, they turned into chimps. And it was like, they take this out for a little while. Even though we didn't know what kind of owl it was, we thought it was some kind of owl, but it turned out to be the Sasquatch, talking in chimp language. Well, I let a forestry person hear the owl call, and he told me, well, that owl call is not in your area. There's no owls in where you're at.
Okay.
The nearest owl is at least 800 miles north of you, and that would be a real far south area for that owl. So it's more like up in Oregon or Washington where these owls are. They're not in California hardly at all. And if they are, they're in the far north of California. So how did those Bigfoot learn the owl call? From 700-800 miles up the state or into another state. It had to be that they were pushed out of the territorial, they had to keep moving until they found their own turf. And that's what we deal with is those. And we think they came from way up, way up there. That's their range, their range for finding more range is thousands of miles. But when they finally find it, I don't know how big it is, but they tend to stay in an area, and then you'll see them every certain time of the year when the food they eat is in the area where you're at, you'll see them.
So what you're saying essentially is it sounds like you're suggesting that Sasquatches can mimic other animals, and perhaps they can mimic human voices as well?
They could say your name. If they know your name, actually they could say anything, but they could sound just like we were up, it was 2 summers ago, and we went to a new area and there was a sighting of a multicolored one, like white and black and brown.
Okay.
And we went up there, and we thought we had good directions, and we thought we found the place. We found out later we didn't find it. But what we did find was we found Sasquatch, right? And he was there, only we brought a kid about 7 or 8 years old, and then his mom and the husband. Well, as we all left, or they left, and I kind of hung out with the kids so he didn't get in trouble or lost. And he was whistling, and he was calling his mom's name and stuff like that, and he freaking her out. And then he wandered off looking for his dad, and I'm glad I saw it because he was going to get lost. He went the wrong way, and I thought, man, do I stay with his wife, or do I go after the kid? And it was like, go after the kid is what my gut feeling told me. When we got back, I found him, and we found the dad, and then we all came back. And when we came back, the wife was saying that something went the opposite direction of where we came from, was whistling exactly like her son and saying her name. She thought it was her son.
Wow.
But she said it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right, so she didn't go towards the voice. She was like, she called for him in that direction, but he never returned, any other thing but just saying her name. And, it weirded her out, and she knew it wasn't him, but it sure sounded like it,
Well, we expect these things from birds. I mean, birds, various tropical birds, macaws and whatnot, can sound like people talking, and that suggests an amount of intelligence in a bird. But if you're talking about a bipedal humanoid kind of thing, 7 to 8 feet tall, who's to think that it doesn't have a fairly well-developed brain? So, Alan Thomas, that leads me to this really fundamental question, and perhaps I should have warned you that I was going to ask it, but I'm really curious what you think, and it's a basic, foundational question. What do you think is Bigfoot or Sasquatch? What is it?
That is a really good question. That is a question that the answer to has changed over 30 years several times.
Okay.
Because at first I thought I was dealing with a biological, bleeding, flesh and blood thing, like ape man type thing. And then they had super capabilities. So then I started thinking, okay, they are ninja-like, you know what I mean? They almost had like magical powers. And now I think there's actually maybe 2 varieties of them.
Okay.
One that is more demonic and one that is flesh and blood. And there might even be more than that. The demonic ones, they're really, really bad. They're the ones that shoot the ultra low frequency and make you sick. They can mess up your pacemaker. They do bad things. Then the other ones, they avoid you. The flesh and blood ones totally avoid you. They totally avoid being seen. The other one, not so much. It doesn't care if you see it. It also can glow its eyes red. You'll hear stories about their eyes glowing red.
I have heard those, yep.
And now recently, in the last probably 6 months, the interdimensional thing started coming in where they can pop in and out of our existence, right? And at first I was like, come on, But I've interviewed so many people now that have seen that, and actually they've even seen it where it looks like, have you seen the movie Predator?
Yes.
Where you can see through it, but you can also see the outline of it, like up in the tree.
Right.
When it's up there. Well, these things do that. The people can see them, but they're cloaked. That's the word they use, cloaked. So now I'm like, I don't know a definitive, I haven't defined or came to a conclusion. But every time I come to a conclusion, then it gets blown out of the water. And so now I'm at the point right now, I'm trying to figure out, is it flesh and blood? Is it demonic? Or is it just interdimensional? And flesh and blood, kind of like.
Let me go back to...
It could be killed when it's in our dimension, but it can't be killed when it pops in its dimension, I guess.
Let me go back to your personal experiences with Sasquatch, because you have physically seen Sasquatches on a number of occasions. On those, and this is specifically what I'm interested in terms of your personal insight and the experiences that you've had, the ones that you've seen. Do they tend to be a humanoid hominid kind of thing, something that's actually living on this planet?
Yeah, because I find evidence, like when they hunt, I found areas where they what would you call it? Ambush hunt.
Oh, right.
Like
ambush predators.
Yeah, they'll move the trees the size of telephone poles. Okay, that's like super duper strength, and I don't know if it's 1 or 2 or 3 moving them. I know it takes 5 people, humans, if it's on the ground, to move it, right? But as we've tested that, but they'll put them like a half corral, and then they'll put one big one towards the back of the corral, and then you have evidence where they've been laying behind in between the back of the little corral they made and then the one they put next to it, and they leave enough room for them to be laying behind it. And then I guess I'm surmising, because I've never seen them do it before, but I found the deer legs where they rip the leg off and throw the leg down. And then the trail coming into that little corral thing, and you can see where they lay behind there, and I guess they chase the game in, and then one of them jumps out and rips its leg off right there. And for the longest time, I was like, why did they rip the leg off? How come I'm not finding any more of the deer than the leg? Just one leg. Like, why? And it took me a little while to figure out that they don't have refrigerators. So you rip the leg off, and then you can throw the deer down anywhere, and it's not going anywhere. Especially if you also bop it in the head or something. And then they can collect however many they need for a meal, and then go off and have a meal, and they're fresh. They can kill them wherever they finally wind up deciding to have the meal at. And it's fresh meat.
One of the questions that occurred in chat earlier, and I think Mike asked the question, was why do we only see Bigfoot one at a time? And I know what your answer is going to be, but Mike, if you're still listening, there's a video that I would guess Alan Thomas would recommend by a guy named Todd Standing. It's called Discovering Bigfoot. And Todd has a number of sightings on video where there are more than one Sasquatch present. It's a great video. It's a fantastic video. I think it's currently on Netflix. I'll say it again. It's called Discovering Bigfoot by a guy named Todd Standing. Now, Alan had referenced earlier that they're extremely strong, and in this video you can see evidence of trees having been essentially ripped in half and let standing by Sasquatch at a really, really terrific height, like 8 feet, 10 feet, nothing that a human could do at that level. So the evidence, to me, is clear. Once I saw that, and then I put a lot of things together with you, Alan, then that's why I decided, man, I have to keep in touch with Alan, because this stuff is absolutely fascinating. Now, the next question that I have for you: how long do you think Sasquatches have been around? Or did they develop like man, only they just took a divergent but parallel path? Have they been around for just recently? Have they been around ever since mankind? What do you think on that?
Well, I do a lot of things with Native American tribes. In fact, I've been down several times camping at the Thule Reservation. It's one with the painted rock.
Okay.
And it has a whole family of Bigfoots painted on this rock. And they know it's anywhere from 700 years and older. Okay, so, and then the legend is, and this isn't just for this tribe, for all across the United States, they were there before they were. The Bigfoots were, the giants were here before they got here. And they've had wars with them. I mean,
really?
Straight up where, yeah, the one here, there's one that happened in Oklahoma that's real notable. It was like in, 200 or 300 years ago. And then the one here was something like 250 300 years ago, something like that. And they would run through at night, and they would grab a baby or a young girl, and then later they would find the baby eaten. They would have the remains of whatever was left of it, or the young girl, they would find the remains. So they're cannibalistic. And that's what always was the war was about. That and what we were talking about earlier, the range, right, or their stomping grounds. Because, like, the Native Americans would settle in their stomping grounds or their hunting grounds or something like that, and they would have nothing but trouble, and they would have wars with them until they worked out with them, and supposedly the Bigfoot talked their language with them in the meeting and smoked the peace pipe, and they made a deal, like, this is our area, this is your area, as long as we don't break these boundaries, we won't come over there and take the babies, and long as you don't, they'll stay, long as everybody stays in their place, nobody has a problem, right? And that goes way, way, way back. And probably the Thule Reservation has the oldest history with them in California. But when you go back into Oklahoma and Tennessee, back there in the South, the Cherokee and those guys, they also have history with them that goes way back, way, way back. Like the Cherokee call them Tue Thu, I think it is. Okay. And it was the same thing, only, the Cherokee said that they could read your mind. And this goes way, way back, like before people thought about where you could, read your mind and stuff like that. So the more I learn, the more I don't know what they are exactly, but I am working to find out, the best I can. Anyway.
Okay, there was also another question, and we've got about a minute and a half, 2 more minutes before the top of the hour break. And okay. I don't want to push you too much, but I'm just curious if you'd be able to hang around for maybe another 15 minutes to around 9:15 or so.
Sure, yeah. As long as you want, man. As long as you want.
Okay, thank you ever so kindly. Really appreciate it. Folks, we are talking to Alan Thomas. He's a Sasquatch investigator, hunter, knows about all sorts of things, paranormal and the unexplained, has a great CV and a great history about experiencing lots of these things. I have so many questions, it's not even remotely funny. So I tell you what we're going to do. I think we're going to go to our second break, and that'll be about 3 or 4 minutes or so, and Alan Thomas will be right back. So please, folks, don't you go anywhere. You're listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin, me, right here on the SHR Media Network in the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Come right back, please.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on SHRmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk. The Sackheads Radio Show. Only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it again.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be evil.
Like, what are you talking about?
Just like the last question that you cut in a couple seconds.
Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever,
because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the second hour right here in the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. It's 9:05 on the far left coast. It's after the Magic Witching Hour on the far right coast. It's 12:05. Today on the left coast, it's March 20th, the year of our Lord 2018, and it's already tomorrow on the right coast. We are talking, and thank you, Alan Thomas, for continuing to do so. We're talking to Alan Thomas, paranormal investigator, Sasquatch expert, etc. And we've been mostly talking about Sasquatches. One of the things that I've been noticing in this, however, and I'm finding myself well informed by yourself, is if there's anything that's uniform about a Sasquatch is that their non-uniformity. In other words, my wife said, okay, well, ask Alan about their size, their color, is there anything about them that's kind of general? And now I remember you saying just this past hour that you saw one, or that there were some that were like black and white. So it seems to me that they can be almost any color, to include the one that apparently I saw, that it was kind of an orangish brown. So it sounds like they have a wide range of colors and almost appearances.
It would be just like humans. I've been tracking, or, hearing reports and tracking a white one for 25 years. And
wow.
Then I I get reports like the color you're talking about. There's two colors that get reported the most, and one of them is the one you reported. Is the one you saw, reddish brown, or
right,
cinnamon color or something like that, and then black, pure straight black. And I was wondering if I have some pictures. I don't know if you're sharing pictures but I was wondering how I can share a picture. I have some pictures I thought everybody would be interested in seeing.
The only way that I could do that right now, because technologically speaking, I am the techno-Luddite, even though I'm the guy that puts all the promos together for the SHR Media Network, which is weird in and of itself since I'm such an ancient fat guy. The only way that I can think of right now, even though we are on camera, is if you were to somehow send me a photo to my phone, and then I could somehow put that up on the camera and display it for people to see. That's another thing that I wanted to talk to you about at lunch, is some of the other things that I'd like to do with the show, because I'm pretty much a moron. So other than that, I can't think of any other way to do that. I mean, I'd like to see them. I'd like to be able to display them. But
well, I'm tweeting them to you right now. Okay. I don't know if that helps. I know I figured out I could tweet the pictures, and I don't know if it's going on your I don't know if it's going on your wall or not.
Well,
but I have some
let me take
pretty good ones here. Yeah, and if it can't share, I know you can tweet them on there later, and people can find them. But what I have is we were out, and it was wintertime, and there was one that was just ahead of us, and really there was three of them. Okay. And you were saying earlier, is there more than one?
Right.
We found tracks of three, but only there was some fresh snow, and there was some really good tracks of this one, and I sent you a picture of it. And it is the most awesome picture. And then I also sent a picture of the rock where it's painted with the Bigfoot family.
Okay.
And I also have a picture of one that is a screen capture off of a video that my friend took, and it was about 1,000 yards away. For some reason, when you put a camera up, you know what I mean? Like, you're watching them, and they're doing whatever, you know what I mean? Like, this one was digging in the rocks. I don't know what it was digging for. It was about 1,000 yards. Soon as, he turned his camera on in his pocket, and everybody's talking, and we're so far away, we know he can't hear him. The wind is blowing like crazy. As soon as he pulled the camera out and aimed it at it, it froze. And it was not going to move. It was like a burnt tree, standing out there 1,000 yards away. And as long as it's not moving, it looks like a burnt tree or stump,
Okay,
so
now
it was like,
I
got to get closer. Soon as we got out of view of it, went around this bush and came back out the other side, it was gone.
Okay, I received two of your photos on Twitter, and I'm holding up for the camera right now for people to see. One of the photos is you next to a rock, and it's a pretty colorful rock. And maybe you could explain what people are looking at in that rock. It's you on the left. It appears to be you on the left, and then you're right next to a rock, and there are some images on that rock. Maybe you could explain what that is.
That is the images of the Sasquatch family that's painted on that rock that are over 700 years old. They estimated at 1,000 years old, but
okay.
I have no idea. I've been told 700 to 1,500, so I don't know, the exact how old, but that's what that is.
Okay. Now I got the second photo, and I'm looking at that on my phone, and I'm going to display it to everybody here in just a second. In this photo, and I want to try to clarify, and I can, it looks like there are three rock formations. There's a rock in a bunch of scrub and brush. The second rock formation, which is about in the center of the photograph, there appears to be something dark, black in color, really, really dark or black, in front of that rock. Now, is that what we're supposed to see? Is that a Sasquatch?
Yeah, that's a Sasquatch. And how you tell, a lot of people, they say, oh, it could be a bear standing up. Now, if you go and watch bears on YouTube, and when they stand up, they have no shoulders.
Okay.
Okay? They're real thin looking in the shoulder department. If you look at that, he has huge shoulders, so much so, and then they have no neck, so their head, and he's showing his back to us.
Right.
So he's kind of bent forward a little bit, but you can see how massively wide he is.
Okay.
You know that. And he was there, and then when we went around the bush for a better shot, he was gone. He became the forest ninja, just like they all do. It's amazing. I have another video on my YouTube where it was one was walking away from us and barely caught it. It was probably like 200 yards away. Same friend that had the camera and took the one at the rock there, pulled out his camera and quickly was, looking for it with the camera, and it sat down with its back to us and froze and looked like a rock. But, and we were like 300 yards about, and, standing there talking and everything, and it's not moving, and then, it was like maybe we were seeing things, and we took our attention away just for a second. And when we looked back, it was gone. It was like, darn, we should have stayed on it. People get on our case because when you do get the shot, you don't hold the camera on it until it disappears, out of the view. But we've done that before, and they never move. I mean, you'll run out of batteries. It'll be a tree or a rock forever, you'll run out of batteries, and then they'll still call you on it, So we're always trying to get closer so we can get better video, and then when we lose sight for a second, then they're gone, and then we look stupid because we only got 30 seconds of video of it. But it's not easy, and I challenge anyone to go out there. I mean, go out there. They're out there. You will, if you go at it and you watch a few videos, maybe listen to some of my videos, listen to this show that we're doing, you will have a little knowledge of them, and you'll be able to find them yourself. Then try to get a video, and if you do, give it to me. And I mean, it's a big if, though, I'm not going to give you $1 million, but, wow, share it with me so I could see it at least.
When you were talking, what I did is I showed the photo of you next to the rock and the family of Sasquatch. Then I showed everybody the second photo that you sent of the Sasquatch by the rock. After I showed that, as you continued talking, I enlarged the photo and showed it again to the folks. When I enlarged it, to me, I could see much more clearly that whatever it was, to me, had its back to you. And just as you indicate, it seemed big, bulky, round-shouldered, looked powerful, thick neck, and a head on top. But it appeared to be looking away from you, presenting its back to you. Let me ask another question that a lot of people have asked, and I don't know if you particularly have an answer, but there have been doubters for quite some time, and I'll be the first to say I'll put up my hand. For the longest time, I did not believe in Sasquatch. I wrote in chat that I read a book about them, probably in the 70s, by a guy named Ivan T. Sanderson about Sasquatches and Bigfoot. And specifically, I think that book consisted mostly about information on the Yeti.
Right.
And these were all, he mentioned them as all hominids. But for the people that don't believe in this stuff, and like I said, I swear to God, that's why I'm really interested in this stuff now. After I saw that Todd Standing video, where to me the evidence is really clear, and how lucky and amazing he must have been to be able to get information like that in terms of video and present it, and then show all the other evidence that he had as well to the two other doctors that are in the video that he presents.
Yeah.
One of the most common questions asked by skeptics: why do we see no bodies of Bigfeet? Why don't we run across bodies of a dead Bigfoot, a dead Sasquatch, a dead Yeti? That's the first question that I hear placed out into the ozone by people that are skeptical of that. I don't know if you have an answer, but do you have any thoughts about that?
I do have an answer. Like, there's been bodies. Normally, now we think they live in family units and they possibly bury their dead, and they may have learned that by watching humans for hundreds of years.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like when the humans came on the scene, I would bet money that everybody within earshot of us that went camping has had one watching them more than one time if they went camping more than one time. And probably really close, too, closer than you would be comfortable with. That's how good they are at being in the woods. And then the second one is in when did Mount St. Helens blow up? It was 1980 or something like that?
Yeah, I'd guess 84, 83, 84, right around in there. Early 80s, I'd guess.
Yeah. I lived up there when that went off. Me and my wife did. And the guys that lived in our apartment complex, they were hot shots. Okay, they were firefighter hot shots, right? And as soon as that went off, they got called to go drop in. You know, they were going to pick them up with a helicopter and drop them in there to look for people, you know, that they knew didn't get out of there, right? And see if there was anybody alive in certain areas. And because these guys parachute in. And when, I guess my neighbor was gone like, I don't know, 2 weeks, something like that. And when he came back, and we're out there having a beer, and he says, you're not going to believe this. You know, I didn't believe in Bigfoot at the time. I never saw a Bigfoot, you know. I made fun of people that talked about Bigfoot at that time. And he said that he showed up at the spot and there was a helicopter there. And he knew he was in the right spot, you know. But he showed up to report in, and this helicopter was sitting there just with its prop just going whoop, you know, just really slow, just idling like. And it had a big net on the ground with a pile of something on it, you know. And he got stopped, he said, about 200 yards from where the helicopter was, but he could see it off in the distance. You know, he couldn't tell what anything is. You know, he could tell it's a helicopter. He could tell there was something on a cargo net, and that's all. They were telling him they had to wait for a few minutes before they could go over and sign in. So then, while they're sitting there, the helicopter fires up all the way, you know, and lifts off and then goes right over their head. He said the cargo net was only like 10 feet above his head. And hanging out of the net was hands and hairy feet, hairy hands, hairy feet, massive ones, big ones. And he said there was a whole net full of whatever this was, dead things, with human-looking hands and feet, but all hairy-looking and massive. And that was my first introduction to dead Bigfoot, right? And it was before I even knew what a Bigfoot was or even thought about a Bigfoot, you know. And so there's bodies, but it's like the giants that, you know, you can read reports of people digging up giants in Ohio and all over the place, but you can't find one bone because they've got rid of all of them. And I don't know what they're trying to hide. You know, it's like certain things the government doesn't talk about and they don't tell people about it. And then 3 years ago, we're one of my forestry friends and another friend that introduced us. He was retiring, and he showed my friend video of whole families of them living in this canyon that they had been using. They had been videotaping them ever since film, and they were saying that they bury their dead. They collect up and bury the dead, and you never ever want to. If you find a place where they bury, or you see one getting buried, do not go dig it up. Whatever you do, don't do that. You'll be the next
target
person that doesn't show up. The next guy gone.
Let me ask you about a really, to me, it was the predicating event for bringing Bigfoot to life, so to speak, and that's the Patterson-Gimlin film from 1967, which was shot in Northern California, and it was near Bluff Creek. And Roger Patterson and Jim Gimlin shot this thing. You can find it on YouTube. And after having looked at that and looked at a number of documentaries, etc., which try to replicate this thing, the conclusion that I draw out of it is I can find no other evidence to indicate that it isn't real. And contrasted with the fact that what kind of special effects were available in 1967 to make this thing, to shoot this film. It's 59 seconds. It's grainy. It's shot on, I think it was Super 8 or some kind of a strange film, so it's not all that long. But they happen to catch this thing as it's walking along a creek. It looks like it's a female because it appears to have breasts, elongated arms. You can see, to me, what clearly looks to be fur on this thing. And it was, when it first came out, these guys had essentially everything to lose and pretty much nothing to gain by it. And yet, after having shot the film, 50 years later, now I think Roger Patterson has passed away, but 50 years later, Jim Gimlin, I think in 2017, came back and he had an interview, and they were talking, and he said, "To this day, I firmly believe that was a Bigfoot, and as far as I know, with some exceptions, that seems to be some of the best evidence that I've seen of the existence of Bigfoot." So do you place any credence in the Patterson-Gimlin film, Alan Thomas?
Yeah, I do. I think that's the best evidence there is, really, today. I mean, there is no other. That is what you see. When I saw the first Bigfoot I ever saw, when I got home from the camp out there, the trip, and I walked in the door with all my gear, and the news was actually playing that clip running across the screen, and I flipped out. All my family thought I lost it, because I saw a Bigfoot 2 days ago for real, and then I walked in the door, and there he goes, across my screen, and I think that's what I said, too. I dropped all my gear, and then, there he goes, and freaked all out. Everybody looked at me like, what in the heck is wrong with him, But yeah, that's really good stuff. And then I noticed somebody said in chat, do Bigfoots that live in the valley or just the mountains? I'm finding in the last few years, especially in the last year and a half or so, they live in the valley too. And it might be just part of their, they might spend some of their time in the mountains and then some of their time in the valley certain times of the year. But I have tracked them all the way across the valley through creeks and rivers, especially rivers. And I mean all the way across, to I-5, from 99 to I-5. They're in there. They're in the oranges. They use rivers, canals, green areas, and they can move really far at night. So they can have a bedding area like in the river, and then at night they can go 20, 30 miles. Because they move so fast, and they can use, and they know when, they're not stupid. They're like me and you, if we come to a road and they know not to cross if something's coming, you know what I mean? So when it's clear, then they cross the road. And we can do that too and never be seen. You know, so that's what they're doing. And the only thing is, lately, the last 5 years or so, I've been getting reports of them down here. The first 2 years, I didn't take it serious because I knew they had to be in the mountains, right?
Right.
And then I started finding evidence, you know, and then it changed my mind. Now I'm on the hunt across the valley. But I want to do one up near Sacramento, only because there's so many rivers going across to the Bay Area. And, man, I bet I could really find them over there.
Well, what you're saying is they're nomadic depending upon the conditions. If they're having problems with food, they go someplace else. If they're having problems with shelter, they go someplace else. If they want to winter at a lesser elevation, they come down. They go up in the elevation when it's convenient for them. You've said that they like oranges, apples, fruit, etc. So where there's food, that makes absolute sense that they're going to go where there's food to be acquired. And it was funny because that's also one of the motivations that Todd Standing had in his documentary about Bigfoot. As he caught them, he would line up apples and fruit, and they would come in, visit late at night, and boom, they'd be gone. So that makes perfect sense that they would be nomadic. We got about another 3 minutes or so till the bottom of the hour. So because they're nomadic, it depends upon the habitat, depends upon the forest, depends upon living conditions, food, etc. Now, you showed us, and I showed on the air here, you have photographic evidence of the existence of Bigfoot, Sasquatch. Do you have any videos that you happen to have taken personally of any Sasquatch?
No, I didn't have a camera, so the guy with the camera just shared the video with me because, you know, we go out all the time together, and but I do have audio recordings of them.
Okay.
On my YouTube, I put it all on YouTube. One is in the Thule res. There's 3 of them screaming at us in Thule res.
Okay.
On one of them, and then there's one roaring at us like King Kong. And then there's the little clips that my buddy shot with his camera. But where we go as a group, you know what I mean? So we share all our stuff, pictures and stuff like that.
Okay, we got about another minute before the bottom of the hour break. Let me ask the obvious question. Heck, you've been here for an hour and a half. Can you do the rest of the half hour after the break?
Sure.
Oh, wonderful.
Only
Wonderful.
I'm not going to make it in the chair. I'm going to get up and walk around.
Well, you should, yes. Because I couldn't do that when I go to other people's shows. Like I say, I can't sit down. I got to walk around, and it's just kind of a weird thing like that. Folks, we are...
Yes, when they roar, my chest vibrated, and if you listen to the video on the Squatch Zone, you will trip out. Go to the Bigfoot roar. After the show.
I've heard a lion roar in the 80s. I went to the San Francisco Zoo, and they were feeding the lions inside the lion house. The San Francisco Zoo has an actual lion house. And if you've never been anywhere near a lion when it roared, just as Alan said, it shakes your lungs. I have never heard a mammal or a creature make a noise this loud, this frightening, that literally shook my lungs. Folks, we're going to be on a break. I'm sorry, go ahead, Alan.
Then imagine that in the mountains, 3 miles down a road that is gated off, and you just hike 3 miles, and you know that whatever it is a half a mile from you, and when it roars, you feel it before you hear it. You know what I mean? Like, you feel it, and you kind of hear it, but you don't know what it is. You feel it more than hear it. And then as it got closer, then you really could hear it and feel it. And then you wanted to run like nobody's business.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
It was frightening enough to know that lion was behind bars. Can you imagine the feeling that you would have out in the open from some distance and something is making a noise that affects you like that? Folks, we're going to take a break.
And coming at you, and you're on a cane. Oh, my God. No.
Not the best of circumstances. Folks, we're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. We're talking to Alan Thomas. You are listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin live and direct on the SHR Media Network. I am broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads radio show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on SHRmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey guys, this is Sean from the Sackheads radio show. Check us out every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network.
And this is Sackhead Clint, as the best-looking one of the bunch. It's my duty to remind you to check us out on our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to check us out on the SHR Media Facebook page. The best-looking one? Really? You going to go there?
Well,
every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the SHR
Voters' Choice.
Media
I have the award
Fine.
right here.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through SHRmedia.com, HighPlainsTalkRadio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on BlogTalkRadio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on SHRmedia.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show.
And Sackheads BZ.
Wait, I'm Sean.
No, I'm Sean.
All right, listen, we'll figure this out every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the...
Where the hell is Clint?
On the SHR Media Network, www.shrmedia.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Now, right back to this amazing show right here on the SHR Media Network.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is the final segment of a 2-hour show. It's Tuesday, March the 20th, the year of our Lord 2018, and we have had the fortune and the honor of speaking to Alan Thomas, paranormal investigator, Sasquatch expert, investigator, hunter, and who is well-versed in almost all things unexplained. In the chat room, Alan Thomas, somebody asked what I thought was a pretty good question, and that was this. Hey, if this is sort of a hominid kind of looking thing, what can we expect for a lifespan of a Sasquatch?
Well, I've heard Native Americans tell me about 200 years. And then at the same time now, I've heard even longer, like 300 years, and that would be the light being ones.
Okay.
I can't remember their name. They have a name, a special name just for them, and only they look like Bigfoots for us, but supposedly they're light beings, and they live inside the tree, not in the trees like on them, but in them, and that's how they eat supposedly. And supposedly those look down on the more lesser being ones that eat meat. They don't hide in trees, and they're not light beings, and they have a name for those, right? But that's how come I don't know. That's how come I can't say, what I think they are yet, because I don't know yet. I'm still gathering information. It does not compute.
We were talking earlier before the break of the Patterson-Gimlin film that was shot in kind of old cranky 8mm or black, excuse me, I think it was color as a matter of fact, but it was grainy film back in 1967. If you haven't seen that or you need to refresh your memory, it's on YouTube. You should go back and take a peek at it. I find it absolutely incredibly convincing, every bit as much as any other evidence that I've seen. Now, we talked to Alan earlier about photographic evidence. He shipped me a photo of one having been caught, and I showed it to the people here as best I could over the video cam that shoots me when I'm in the studio. And so there is photographic evidence that you have. There is audible evidence that you have. So the next thing I have to ask Alan Thomas is, do you have or have you seen any evidence to indicate footprints?
Yeah, I put another picture up on yours. It's a footprint in the snow, and it has my friend's hand with his glove. He has a glove on, and he puts his hand next to it, spread out. And it's a very the Bigfoot was only like a few minutes ahead of us. It could have been right by us. We don't know, but we know it wasn't very far away from us. You know what I mean? Like, they were making noises and doing their chimp talk. So we were hearing them around us. They were tapping on the trees or throwing little bitty pebbles at us. But only I put that picture also. I tweeted that picture.
Okay, it's funny.
Beautiful.
It's funny
beautiful
you should
picture.
Mention that, because I just got it. And if you're looking for a pristine photograph, I'm going to display it to everybody here. It's a vertical, so I'm going to display it in the vertical for folks to see in chat, which is another reason, folks, that you can listen to me and you can clean your fish tank and balance the checkbook, but every once in a while it's worthwhile to actually watch. You can watch on the SHR Media Facebook page, or you can watch, because we simulcast on the SHR Media YouTube channel, and you can watch us later in podcast or video cast as well. I just got this photograph, so I'm going to show it to the folks that happen to be listening live or in the podcast. Well, in the podcast, you won't be able to see it, but in the video cast, you will. This is an astounding photograph. I hope it comes out fairly clear, and I'm hoping that the camera decides that it's going to focus, because you can see.
I don't know if that is is that on your public Twitter page, or can you make them public or share in public?
Yeah, I can. It should be on the Twitter page. You can probably pick it up on Twitter on my timeline right now. I'm trying to get the camera to focus in on it, and you can see a hand, a black glove, and to the right of the hand, there's a footprint. Now, for whatever reason, the camera here in the chat room is not wanting to focus real well on this. Let me see if I can get it to focus one more time before I run out of arm strength. Okay, you can see the foot. You can see the toes. I'm just going to let folks go. I'm going to put this, however, because I do a recap of all my shows. And in the recap, you're going to see these photos that Alan was kind enough to send me. So if you wait about another hour and a half or so after I post the show, you'll be able to see all of these incredible photographs that Alan has been kind enough to send me. And so I really appreciate that. So this is clear photographic evidence that you've sent, and I really appreciate that. Now we've talked about photographic evidence, audible recordings, video recordings. You just sent me a photo of footprints. Have you come across any, say, Sasquatch hair or things that you thought might have been Sasquatch hair caught on trees? Because the first thing I'm thinking is, okay, if you have evidence of hair of Sasquatch, it's going to be pretty tall. We don't have that many huge bears in California, and we certainly don't have any grizzlies that would, standing up, be the height of a Sasquatch. So I'm curious if you found any evidence of hair at a significant distance above the mean terrain where you found it.
We haven't yet. We've tried. You putting things up with high up where they have to reach, and then out of any other animals where they can't get to it. Like hanging, and then putting duct tape around it, two-sided duct tape, so that when they reach over the edge of the box to get the apple, they would leave the hair, and somehow they get it and they don't leave the hair. We did get some fingerprints that way. We also got fingerprints. We would take the bag of apples and then just cut a slit in it, and then take one apple out and then show them that, we took the apple out, and show, hold it up in the air and then take a bite out of it and eat it, swallow the apple bite, show them that we took the bite out, and then throw that in the woods and then leave the bag there. And they come along, and any animal like a bear or anything like that will eat the bag with the apples. Okay, or the bag will be ripped to shreds, and the apple's gone. This thing will put its fingers in the slit of the bag, and then they stretch it open, and the apple bag will leave exact fingerprints. It'll stretch over their fingers and leave the fingerprints on the bag, and then they eat the apples. But when we put game cameras up, several around where the game cameras could see the other game cameras and also the apples. And when we go retrieve the SD cards out of the cameras, all the cameras malfunctioned at the same time. They took pictures, but there was nothing there. There was just black on the pictures. And then when when the camera started, all of them started functioning again, the apples were gone. Okay, so before they malfunctioned, there was apples. After they malfunctioned, there was no apples. But there's no pictures either. Just black pictures on all 4 cameras. So we don't know. Somehow they're able to malfunction cameras. They can make batteries go dead. It's really weird. It's a weird thing, really weird.
But
I can't even explain how they do that.
But it's not unprecedented. It's not unprecedented at all. There have been studies that indicate that human beings have an electromagnetic aura about us, that it's connected in an electric fashion. And then, let's look at the electric eel, for example. If you happen to be in South America, here is a living, breathing creature that if you pick it up, its electric charge can stun you to the point of killing you. And it's certainly not as big as a human being. It's thick. It can be long. It can be as big around as a human ankle or a calf. It can be long, 4 or 5 feet or so. But still, that's not as long as remotely as big as a Bigfoot. So I would submit that it's not unprecedented for something to emit some kind of an electromagnetic field that, for whatever reason, might have an effect on cameras like that. Now, Mike in chat asked, Mike, if you want to, after I post the show, come back to bloviatingzeppelin.net. That's where I'll post the show, and that's where I will have the photographs that Alan Thomas sent me, and you can look at them. You can expand them, but Mike says, okay, well, what's the size, the average size of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch foot? In this photo, it's perfect because there's a human hand for comparison. You can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 toes on the foot with a larger big toe, so it is human-like. It is humanoid hominid-like, but it's a very wide foot. My guess would be that foot is maybe 1.5 feet to close to maybe 1.75 feet, pushing 2 feet long, and it's extremely wide.
Yeah, it's real wide. That one is about 16 inches, 16 and a half inches, and about 8.5 inches wide.
But that's perfect, though. That's, you think about Charles Darwin and natural selection in terms of the progression of a hominid like this. You would want a foot like that because you have to be able to survive climatic conditions, snow, being able to achieve traction in the snow, on the forest floor. So having a big, wide foot like that would serve the purposes of a creature like Sasquatch. That would seem perfectly logical to me.
Well, we've got DNA from them. We had one look in we had to leave a truck behind. Got snowed in. It was a 2-wheel drive truck.
Oh, that's you and Jeffrey, right?
Yeah, and the Bigfoot, there was 2 of them. One was bigger than the other one, but it left opposing thumbprint with knuckle print on the window, and then on the door below the window there was a opposing thumb print. And then it slobbered. It like stuck its nose right on the window glass, and some snot rolled out of the nose. The nose was 6 inches wide.
Holy!
And the mouth, the mouth was 9 inches wide. And we have on our team, we have a guy that is CSI for the local police department here for 17 years. And we already learned, we collected DNA before on our own, and everyone said, it came back mostly human, right? So they said, you contaminated the DNA. So then we got our buddy Mickey. Every time we get anything, hair, or we treat it like a crime scene, nobody gets near it. I mean, we don't even breathe on it. You know what I mean? We stayed way away and let Mickey go in first with his cameras and his stuff and let him do his thing. And he collected the DNA and took pictures of it. He did not believe in Bigfoot at all, okay? He likes ghosts and stuff like that, but not Bigfoot. After he took the pictures, he took it home that night, and he was comparing it to the known animals in the forest. It didn't match any animal. So then he was like, okay, so if it doesn't match any animal, what does it match, right? It has to match something, and he was going to try to find that. It matched almost 100% perfect with the gorilla.
Aha.
The face print. And now, because of the DNA coming back nearly completely human, just only a small percentage of it, they have no idea what it is. It's, like they don't have a record of that kind of DNA, so they don't know what it is. But it is human, you know, mostly. And then with the face print being like a gorilla, now our CSI guy is a firm believer in Bigfoot just by evidence. He said evidence is his life. That's what he does. You know, he puts people to jail with evidence. So he said he has enough evidence right there to prove to any judge there's a Bigfoot. You know, that he could make a case of it. And so now he believes in Bigfoot.
Well, and that's his life. When you've got somebody that's an evidence technician, then they believe only in the things that they can see in the physical world. And I'm sure that's why he was convinced. We got about another 5 minutes or so before the wrap of the show. A couple more questions, if you don't mind. The first one that comes to my mind is, have you noticed any commonalities in terms of Bigfoot sightings? And what I mean by that is areas where where Sasquatch has historically been found. Are there, like, say, I don't know, sightings of UFOs? Are there, like, activities going on that might be considered paranormal? Any other things in the area where there might be a lot of Sasquatch activity that yields a lot of stuff that may be unexplained? So if we see a patch or an area with a number of frequent sightings, is there anything else that happens to go along with Sasquatch sightings, I think is my question.
Yeah, the UFOs, definitely. A lot of times people will see a UFO, and then a few minutes later they'll see a Bigfoot, or the other way around, right? They'll see a Bigfoot, and then they'll see a UFO. The other one is the Bigfoot is usually not aggressive, and it'll go away, right? It'll be going away from you. And it doesn't stick around long. Like, usually, no, it isn't even a full minute that you get, it's seconds usually that you get to see it. Like your sighting. You saw it for a brief few seconds. Luckily you have the skills, observation skills and that you use on your job, and you're more observant than other people on taking descriptions and stuff like that. So you caught more than the average person. And then the other one that's kind of scary, and it backs up what my theory is, that they're opportunistic, and also the Indians say they're cannibalistic. People disappeared. And the one thing I hear all the time, if there's no body, right? Nobody finds a body, okay? And then there's no stories of any of them attacking anyone. Well, they're opportunistic. They attack only when they know they can get away with it. And usually they don't find the person again. And if they do, then they wind up in the 411 book with David Paulides. A really weird, when they find the bones are broke up into inch pieces and the bone marrow is broke out of it, and
holy moly,
the clothes are folded, like weird stuff.
That's pretty weird. Okay, we've got about a minute and a half or 2 minutes left to go before the end of the show. My final question, and this was sent to me on a text from somebody else that I know that happens to be listening to the show. And this person texted in and said, okay, what do I do if I see one?
If they can think, get their phone out and take a picture. But normally you can't think. Usually it'll put fear on you. Like there'll be a fear that's palpable that makes you want to run, and it makes you not think straight, and because that isn't supposed to exist, almost. So if you have the mind, get the phone or the camera out and take a picture if you can, and don't run. Kind of like if you're facing a mountain lion, don't run. Don't become prey. You know what I mean? Like usually the apex predator chases down its food and kills it and eats it. So don't be the guy that runs away and becomes the prey by running.
You make an excellent point.
That would be my best advice.
Because that's exactly pretty much what they tell you with regard to mountain lions and cougars, certainly in California. Okay, we've reached the end of our show. Alan Thomas, we've been speaking to you. Thank you ever so kindly for donating a full 2 hours to the show tonight. I mean, we have just, I literally, Alan, I wrote down, and my wife helped write down a list of questions, and I added some more of things to ask you, because I find this absolutely fascinating. There are so many more questions. It's not even remotely funny. Good Lord. But thank you.
Yeah, and we can go another 2 hours really easy.
Oh, God. I got to have you back, but thank you ever so kindly for appearing here in the saloon. And finally, one other thing. If people want to read something about you or they want to watch some of your shows, where do they go and where can they find you?
The Squatch Zone, and that's it. The name of the YouTube is just Squatch Zone. And then if they want to hear about the DNA, some of the stories about the windows and stuff like that, they can find. I think it's Bigfoot called Sarah Spy. Only I worked for him, and I wasn't supposed to be on TV, so they put me on at the last minute in a surprise, and I wasn't dressed properly, I don't think, because I was dressed to work. And then they could find me on Finding Bigfoot, and also on Monsters and Mysteries. It's called Hellhounds, Evil Gnomes, and Bigfoot Wars, or Bigfoot Wars, Evil Gnomes, something like that. But those are the keywords, and you can see some of what we tell our story on the cable shows. But for me, just Squatch Zone, and you'll have everything. My Twitter, everything.
Folks, we've been talking to Alan Thomas. Go to his YouTube channel, Squatch Zone, Z-O-N-E, Squatch, S-Q-U-A-T-C-H, Squatch Zone. Alan Thomas, YouTube. Put that into your favorite search engine, and you'll be able to find all the buttery goodness that is, in fact, Alan Thomas. Sir, thank you ever so kindly again for being on tonight, and I hope to have you again on shortly. Thanks. It was a pleasure and an honor, sir.
You just say the word, my man. It is really a pleasure to be on the show, and I love all your viewers. They're great, and they have great questions. Just absolutely good people.
Thank you very much. Folks, it's time to wrap the show up. We're going to have to say goodbye to Alan. We're going to have to say goodbye to you. Thank you for listening. Next Thursday, this coming Thursday, by the way, we'll be back on Sackheads. I'll be here for the Sackheads radio show tomorrow night.
Monsieur has been locked!
And I will be back this Thursday with a special guest again, Jeff Dunitz from the Jeff Dunitz Show, the Yid with Lid. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network. You want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at bzep, my blog, bloviatingzeppelin.net, where I will be posting this show in about an hour or so, and you can see the photographs right there. My original music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at reverbnation.com. And special promotional consideration by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, the Boeing Company, If It Ain't Boeing, I Ain't Going, and by Pratt & Whitney Engines Thrust. You can trust. Thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team. Gonna see you shortly, folks. And thank you. Thanks to Alan Thomas. Thank you for listening live. Thanks for being in chat, watching, listening. See you next Thursday. Tune in tomorrow night for Sackheads. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.